No one says, I am going to make a choice today that will cause me stress in the future, right? Hello, 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 and welcome to More Than Money, a podcast where we have nuanced conversations about money, business, and life, where we take the time to explore the human side of money because success with money is never just about the numbers. I'm your host, Jacquette Timmons, and I am really, really glad that you are here with me today. So, whether this is your very first episode or one of many, welcome. And before we get into today's episode, I've got a question for you. What would it feel like to have a financial breakthrough, particularly one that you didn't even know you needed? The thought of that probably sounds really juicy, doesn't it? Well, here's one more reminder about the Summer of Love Financial Edition offer. Because maybe your breakthrough will look like discovering that how you think you are spending your money is very different than how you are really spending it. Or maybe you will have clarity as opposed to simply a sense of your current status. Are you ahead? Are you behind? Or are you on track? Whether we're talking about your revenue goals or other goals. Or maybe the breakthrough will show up in the form of really having a better understanding of your behavior and your choices that you may need to tweak so that you can finish the year strong or perhaps even stronger. So, in short, this one off 75-minute session is a chance to celebrate your financial journey thus far because the power of gratitude, but also it's a chance for you to check in and see how wide or perhaps how narrow the gap is between where you are and where it is that you want or need to be. So, the official end of summer is September 22nd, and there is still time for you to grab a spot and grab a seat and take advantage of this offer. And this offer is really a chance for you to take a step back and gain a fresh perspective on your financial goals and the progress that you're making. And then with a clearer set of eyes, determine what needs to change so that you can move forward. So again, for all of the details about the Summer of Love Financial Edition and to grab one of the available spots, send me a DM on Instagram with the word summer, and we will get you all of the details and the link so that you can book your session. But in the meantime, let's get into today's show. So, as you may have noticed, the title of today's episode is Raise Your Hand if you want to be financially stressed. I know that is a pretty absurd invitation, that title, because no one wants to be financially stressed, at least not in an unhealthy way. But the stats don't lie, my friends. According to the 2023 PwC Employee Financial Wellness Survey, 47% of employees are financially stressed and 56% are so distracted by this stress, my add-on, that it affects their focus. According to the newly released study by Paradigm for Parity, 48% of Black women that they surveyed reported feeling stressed because they are living paycheck to paycheck, and 63% of them felt stressed about simply meeting their cost of living and household bills. So, what gives? And as I have probably shared here and definitely elsewhere, I truly don't believe that anyone wakes up in the morning and says, I am going to make a choice today that will cause me stress in the future. And yet, so many families, individuals, and businesses are buried under the weight of stress due to usual as well as unexpected causes. The more well known culprits, if you will, are debt, living expenses, income instability, unexpected expenses, and worry about the future. Whereas the more unusual causes, they look a little something like this. One, business and lifestyle inflation. This is when your expenses rise as your income rises. As a result, though, you don't get a chance to benefit from the increased earnings. You don't get to experience the relief that comes from having more than you need. Here's another: cultural and societal expectations. This may be because you are not only financially responsible for your immediate household, but also for extended family members too. Or it might show up as pressure to spend your money in a particular way or to live a particular lifestyle. Here's a third one: financial guilt. Now, the common guilt is overspending, but this can also show up as what I call toxic frugality. In that regard, perhaps you feel guilty for spending money on yourself, even for necessary things. Or on the flip side, maybe you feel guilty because of what you cannot do, of what you cannot spend. So, for example, you are frustrated because you don't have the ability to do what you want or to help out family members and friends as much as you would like, as much as you would like. Here's the fourth one: information overload. Courtesy of your phone, you can manage every aspect of your financial life in the palm of your hand. However, this instant access to information about where you stand financially, banking, credit card, investment, it can lead to overwhelm and anxiety if this access is not handled well, especially when you prioritize information or more information over more insight. And whew, as my fellow entrepreneurs and business owners know, the relationship between business success and success with your personal finances can be a major source of stress. Unlike some of my peers, though, I don't subscribe to the idea that we don't talk about money. I think we talk about money all the time. I just don't think that we are having the right conversations. And I bring that up because while, yes, it is true, we barely give the usual and unexpected causes of financial stress any airtime, like the examples that I've just shared. It is also true that there are several things that add to the weight of the financial stress that you and I might experience that often get overlooked. But that doesn't mean that the need to identify and discuss them is any less important. So, in the world according to Jacquette, here are a few things I think often get overlooked in the discussion about stress, especially if it is burdensome, that we really ought to pay attention to. The first is it doesn't happen overnight. Financial stress builds up gradually, choice by choice. It is when it reaches its peak that you feel the pressure and are able to recognize and name it what it is: stress. And I don't say this to blame you for the stress that you are experiencing. Rather, it is to highlight that the clues and the cues were there all along. Unfortunately, you and I tend to only recognize it upon reflection. Speaking of, then there is the financial stress that you don't even notice at all. Because while you are depleting your savings account and selling off your investment portfolio and increasing your credit card balances, both business wise and personally, in your mind, you are doing the quote unquote right thing. As you are doing those things, dipping into your savings, selling some of your assets, increasing your credit card balances, you are doing all of those in service to an overarching goal. And by the way, in case you don't know my story, I have just described myself, because this is what led to my CPA at the time asking me in 2003, when are you going to stop mortgaging your life? I was so focused on doing all that I could to ensure that I had a successful, profitable business and one that didn't leave me broke, that I wasn't paying attention to the fact that what I was doing was actually leading to the opposite result. Now, in hindsight, I can see clearly that I was under financial stress. I just didn't notice it then at that time. So here's something else that gets overlooked. And it is how financial stress, whether in your life or in your business, is really a result of a conflict. And you have probably heard me say that very broadly, there are four things that you can do with your money. You can earn it, you can save it, invest it, and spend it. The question becomes, how clear are you about which area or areas are in conflict with one another? What goals are in conflict with one another? What priorities are in conflict with one another? What resources that are available to you are in conflict with one another? And here is one last one. You're focused only on the short-term pain. Here's the deal. Once the financial stress reaches the point where it has grabbed your attention and you know that something needs to be done, there is a tendency to want the stress and the results of what needs to be done you want the stress to go away and you want the results to show up immediately. You want that like stat. And understandably, all of your time, all of your energy and your effort is focused on relieving the pain that you are currently feeling. However, sometimes this is done at the exclusion of making sure to also address the underlying root cause of the stress as well. So in my case, when I think about it, you know, the underlying root cause of my stress was that I was not charging enough. At the time I was managing money, coaching, and speaking. The managing money part, that was dictated by SEC rules. But coaching and speaking, I had control over that. And I just simply wasn't charging enough. And now today, as you probably know, I don't manage money at all. My focus is exclusively coaching and speaking, and that I can control. And I've gotten much, much better at those price points. But anyway, the way that I see it, stress is both universal and personal. I believe everyone, and yes, that includes you, whether you are listening or watching. I believe everyone is operating with some degree of financial stress in their life. And if you happen to have a business, in your business as well. However, the degree of that stress is what separates normal, healthy stress from chronic, unhealthy stress. And I am not so confident that it is even possible for any of us to completely eradicate financial stress. Tackling it, though, involves being honest with yourself about the usual and unexpected causes, along with those that get overlooked. All of that I've just talked about right there in that little snippet, that is what is universal. What is personal and unique is A, what aspect of your life and business stress affects. B, the likelihood that what stresses you today, as well as the causes of it, they won't be the same in the future, especially when you factor in the role of the unexpected and uncertainty, along with how your circumstances evolve over time. And then there is C. Add on the reality that each person's capacity to carry the weight of their financial stress varies, due in part to cultural, societal, and psychological differences. All of this is why, in my opinion, generic how to's to managing financial stress tend to be insufficient. And it is why what I say is a much more effective approach and a much more effective strategy is a mix of practical strategies and a holistic approach, one that works for you. So, yes, how each person tackles the financial stress with which they are contending varies, but what ought to be universal, again, in my opinion, is this: don't let the shame of stress keep you from seeking the support and getting help. And definitely don't let shame zap you of feeling hopeful that you will eventually find yourself on the other side. Well, that is a wrap for today, folks. As always, thank you for listening. And if you are on YouTube, thank you for joining us there and watching. If you'd like to show appreciation for this podcast or perhaps this particular episode, please do me a favor and share it with those in your inner circle, because it will help us to reach more people, and certainly more people than we could on our own effort. And if you happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts, please take a moment and go on ahead and leave a 5-star rating, but also write a review. One, we do read them, but two, all of that helps with the algorithm so that we can be found by more people that are in the podcast app searching for podcasts about money. And if you happen to be on YouTube, please comment below. And as always, if you'd like to buy me a coffee, you can do that by going to buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette. Again, buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette. And oh, don't forget about the Summer of Love Financial Edition offer. Just send me a DM on Instagram with the word summer, and we will get you all of the details and the link to book your session. Thanks again for listening or watching, as the case may be. I'll be back with another episode. I hope you will too. Until then, remember, it's about more than money.